First of all, it's my honor and my pleasure to be here, especially because everyone here today chose to be here. Everyone here today was motivated enough to say, I want to be there at Kane. I saw those ads in the Star Ledger. I went online, and I know that I want to be there to pick up something new. There's a wonderful book out, and no, it's not mine, but you should buy mine today. One of my favorite books by one of the great gurus in the business. And you'll find today that in the short time I'm with you, I'm going to offer some tangible tips and tools. One of the first ones is to talk about a book that I love. And it's in many ways a theme of today. There's a wonderful book called Good to Great. Jim Collins is the author. A lot of people here are good. In fact, a lot of people here are great as well. One of the first themes is in Good to Great by Jim Collins. No matter how good you are, no matter how good you think you are, as soon as you think that you have got it down, as soon as you think that you have plateaued, as soon as you think, I'm good enough, that's when you know you're in trouble. And so the people here today have decided, wherever I am, however good I am on the scale, I want to get better. So that's why today is about getting good to great. But in fact, by the way, you ever notice there's not a book called Hey, I'm Good Enough? So this crowd is the good to great crowd. In fact, I would argue that this is the great to extraordinary crowd. This is the great to extraordinary crowd. And in that spirit, I want you to join me in saying thank you to a couple of organizations who made today possible. You may not notice, but that big logo right there makes a big difference. Let's hear it for TD Bank. And you also would not be here if it were not for the tremendous and consistent promotion from our partners at the greatest paper in New Jersey, the Star Ledger. And of course, many of us would not be here if it were not for the star of our attraction today. And I have no illusion, I have no delusion about the fact that I play second fiddle. It's one of the first keys in making a good first impression is to know where you are in the pecking order. To the great Susie Orman. So in that spirit, I have a question for you. And my approach to this kind of presenting is very simple. Yeah, I have some things I want to offer, and I promise you, you'll walk away with some tangible tips and tools. I promise you. I promise you that today, you'll walk out with at least 10 substantive
I heard my name, I couldn't resist.
I'm not worthy. I'm not. That's Susie Orman. You know, Susie came on our PBS program one-on-one at Lincoln Center. No disrespect to the governor who we had on the other day and will be repeating next week. The highest rated program we ever had on public television that I interviewed was with Susie Orman. The highest rated program. All right, enough about Susie. This is about me. No. All right, here's the deal. I promise you, you'll walk away with 10 tangible tips and tools you can use immediately. You don't have to use them all, but 10 to pick from. But my approach is to be highly interactive. And so you're going to find that even though there's one microphone, it's going to be hard to run around with a huge audience like this. You may have to just yell out, but I have my question right out of the box. First impressions. I wrote a column last week in the Star Ledger. How many people read the Ledger on a regular basis? Well, if you don't start doing it because it's a place to get valuable information, thank you. By the way, Nick Maselli, Vanna White has nothing on you. Well, she does, but we won't go there, Nick. Here's the deal. In the Ledger last week I wrote, and this is actually after consulting with Nick. Nick had said, Steve, listen, we were ready to do this in November. Yep. And Hurricane Sandy had some other plans. Nick said, hey, go back to the drawing board, Adebato, and ask this question. And it was a really good question. After the storm, which is affected. By the way, by putting your hand up, and I want everyone to be honest, who has been affected in one way or another by Hurricane Sandy? Put your hand up. Now, everybody look around right now. Now, I don't mean I'm affected because we have a house down the shore and my parents are dealing with that house, and our home down at Lavalette on the beach is, you know, it isn't what it was, and we don't know what that's going to be. I'm also talking about business, the fact that we have clients down in Monmouth and Ocean County, the fact that we have to now deal with those clients differently, the fact that our whole way of doing business has changed. Everyone has been affected in one way or another. So, what Nick said to us is take a look at the question of making a positive first impression, a powerful first impression in a different way. Because here's the deal about the storm, ladies and gentlemen. That storm, in the name, the face, the reality of Hurricane Sandy, I want you to think of a storm this way. A storm could simply be something else devastating, powerful, difficult, challenging, painful, hard to deal with, a setback, a disappointment, a rejection, whatever that storm is. Today's presentation is about making a positive, powerful first impression when a storm hits you, when a storm hits your business. And by the way, I don't simply mean your business, because there are people here who are dealing with divorce. There are people here who are dealing with family members who are sick, who have just lost a loved one, who are dealing with their own physical challenges. In fact, I'm going to give you a concrete example because I'm one of those people who speaks by examples. You want to make a powerful first impression? You want to deal with storms? The way I teach, the way I coach, the way I speak comes from living examples, comes from real life people. You want to make a powerful first impression? First tip, you ready? Take a risk. Write it down, take a risk. And if you're just sitting there and you have nothing to write on, that means you're obviously waiting for Susie. But you still have something to write on, so you have nothing to lose. Write it down, and if you don't want to do it, just ignore it. First tip in making a powerful first impression after the storm. Take a risk. What do I mean by that? As I was here this morning, about a half hour early, and by the way, that's really the first tip. Show up early. Make a powerful first impression, show up early. Don't show up late. Going for a job interview, you're going to be late, don't show up at all. That's right. Don't show up at all. In this economy, you're going to be late, call up and say, forget it. That's right. I'm actually not even joking. Don't be late. So here's the real tip about taking a risk. There's a young lady in this audience, Renee Marie. Renee Marie walked up to me. She's sitting out in the first row on my left over here. She walked up to me and said, Steve, I came here because I wanted to meet you. And I said, well, you know, you wanted to meet Susie. She goes, well, yeah, you too. So, and she said, I have something for you. And I noticed she had 3 bags on this arm, and she was just struggling. And I said, oh, tell me what you want. She said, I want to give you something. I want to give you this information because I would like to appear on your public television show. I said, okay. I said, we usually give it to producers. And she said, I've experienced a stroke, and I'm dealing with something called aphasia. And aphasia is something that impacts people's ability to communicate effectively. It does not affect your brain. It does affect your ability to communicate directly. And she had the bags, and she's all over the place, and obviously she's impacted on one side of her body. And I said, would you just sit down and relax, and I'll come and follow you, and we'll take a picture, and we'll talk. And I went over, and we took a picture, and she was still pitching me to be on the show. And Renee is right over here. And I'll take the time to look at this, and I'll share it with my producers. And she has a very good chance of appearing on public television in the next few months to help other people, because she formed a not-for-profit organization to help other people who are dealing with similar situations. This young lady, Renee Marie, took a risk. She tried to make a positive first impression. I could have blown her off. I could have just taken it and ignored it. But she decided to take a risk. She decided to deal with 8 bags in her arm and do whatever. I want you to give a hearty New Jersey welcome to Renee. Renee, could you wave? They can't see you, Renee. She's right here. So my first tip is take a risk. Be proactive. I'll give you a concrete example of this. I was doing a seminar the other day. I do a lot of executive coaching and seminars. By the way, I would be remiss with a crowd like this if I did not do the following in terms of being proactive. Being proactive and taking a risk and making a good first impression after the storm, before the storm, whenever, is very important. So I'm going to be proactive right now. Anyone here on Facebook, put your hands up. You know, I'm on Facebook too. And I have more of a professional Facebook page, meaning what I put on my Facebook page is about what I'm doing professionally, and I try to put articles out and ideas out, and I try to get feedback. I don't know about you, but when I first went on Facebook, I asked myself this question: why are people friending me from high school asking to be my friends when I wasn't friends with them in high school? Anyone else have that by applause? I'm like, you didn't make a good first impression then. We weren't friends then. Why are we friends now? I'm like, what's up with that? So I made a concerted effort last year that I would upgrade my friends. And no disrespect to folks I knew in high school, but I promised myself that today, with this crowd, I would be remiss if I did not ask folks to, I think the term is like us. Please like us. Please like us on Facebook. And it's very simply, Steve Rtpw, PhD. Right now, it's at a certain number, and I'd like to see that number go up. And why? Not just because of the numbers, but because of the people in this room. This is the kind of group that I want to have a conversation with. So when I put an article up about a particular subject and I ask for feedback, this is the kind of audience I want to have a conversation with, because I feel like I can learn from you much more than you can learn from me. So how many people will put their hands up right now? This is in the spirit of being proactive and taking a risk. How many people are committing? Because I can count real quick. How many people are going to like us on Facebook, Steve Rtpw, PhD? And I've got a handout with 10 tips that I'm going to hand out at the TD. We have a TD booth, right, Nick? The TD booth, you can open up a TD account over here. $100 or more if you open up a TD bank. You get a book, this book right here. Right, Nick? What is the book called? You Are the Brand. You get this book, signed book. We have a handout for you. 10 keys to make a positive first impression, and there's a big logo on the Facebook page, okay? It tells you all about that. So the thing I want to offer is be proactive and take a risk. So here's the question I want to ask everybody first, and just yell it out. When I meet someone for the first time, after the storm, before the storm, what gives me a really bad first impression? I want you to think about it before you throw your hand up. Now, Nick's going to run around as much as possible, but he's not going to be able to get it. Okay, everyone, watch this. We're going to do a list together. Watch how this works. What gives you a really bad first impression? And then we'll switch it up to what gives you a great first impression, and watch how we do this together. First, you have to give your first.
Making eye contact.
Okay, no eye contact, bad eye contact. Okay, you ever meet someone at a bar? Well, my wife doesn't let me do that anymore, so forget about that. So you go to a cocktail party, you go to reception, you're trying to network. You ever go to a networking event, which is so weird because you have to give out your card, and you're talking to someone that's getting a little boring, and you're looking over their eyes like, hey, how you doing? And that person knows. Bad eye contact. Whoever it is, you don't have to stare like a nut job like this, like crazy eyes. But at least whoever you're talking to, be there. My next tip, because I'll do this in the course of as we go through this, I will explain to you the concrete tips. So here's the next tip in making a great first impression. Be present. Be 100% present. Very simply, what does that mean? It means decide to be where you are. You're in a meeting, you're bored, figure out how to get back into the meeting. You're meeting someone at a reception, and all of a sudden you see someone else you want to meet. While that's happening, focus on the person you're with. I was meeting people when we came in here. Someone else wants to talk to me. I see that person out of the corner of my eye, but I'm talking to you. How do you feel if this young lady, what's your first name? Renee. What is everybody named Renee today? Is that how you got to get in? And your first name is? Cynthia. If I'm talking to Cynthia and Renee is over her corner, over her shoulder, and she's looking at me, and I'm looking at Renee, and you see that, Cynthia, what kind of feeling do you have?
Like you're not paying me any attention.
I'm blowing you off. Bad first impression? But she's trying to make eye contact with me. Can I make eye contact with both of you at the same time? The answer would be no. You cannot make eye contact. You do not multitask. So when it comes to first impressions, no multitasking. Be there. And this is also good for dating. I mean, I guess dating online is different, and that's a whole nother world. But when you are meeting people, be there. Stop trying to look at Renee when Cynthia is the one you're talking to. Nick, what else you have? Bad first impressions. Not smiling. What's your first name? Stand up.
My name is Ruth.
Ruth? Bad, not smiling. Help me understand that. Not smiling? Not smiling. Who else had something like not smiling or unfriendly? Anyone else? Not smiling? Well, let's stay on the not smiling part. Not smiling. Anyone else? Sourpuss? Not smiling? Negative. Okay, here we go. Let's put all these in the same category. Bad impressions are made by people who, let's give them a name. Debbie Downer. Danny Downer or Debbie Downer? Here's my view of the first impression issue when it comes to what you just laid out. We all have issues, right? We all have issues after the storm. We all have problems, right? There are people who are dealing with all kinds of issues. But here's the deal. If you go into TD Bank and you're running a business after the storm and your house has been destroyed and your life's turned upside down, and here's my philosophy of this. I'm not saying no one cares, but I am saying this. It is your job to focus on the positive. It is your job. When you want to make a powerful first impression, do not focus on what is so terrible about the situation. And here's the problem with that. You need to be realistic about how serious the situation is, but you cannot obsess. You cannot obsess about the negativity of it, because here's what happens. You know as well as I do, when you are obsessed about how it's terrible, no one's helping, all true. But you meet someone. You ever ask someone how they're doing and they tell you? You ever ask somebody in New Jersey, hey, how you doing? 20 minutes later, like, oh man, I didn't really mean that. I was just trying to be friendly. If I had any idea you were going to do that, I would just say, hey, listen, good seeing you, I got to go. When people are asking how you're doing, they don't really want to know how you're doing. They're just being friendly. So here's my advice. Limit the negativity. Limit the downer stuff. You want to make a positive first impression? Quickly get to your plan for moving forward. Quickly get to your plan for moving forward. Your business has been affected by the storm? Your home has been affected by the storm? Yes. We know FEMA is not doing what this should be doing. We know the insurance company can't decide whether it's wind or rain that did it. We know it's not good. It's been 11 weeks. It's terrible. But here's the problem. Everybody else has issues. And if you're going to be really honest about it, people, first impressions. Most people are more obsessed with their problems than they are yours. So my advice to you is this. Quickly get off of the negativity. Focus on what you're doing to move forward. And I'm not saying put a dumb smile on your face that looks like you're on some heavy medication. But when you greet people, I want you to greet them with a firm handshake, a smile on your face, and an attitude that says the following. I'm going to get through this. I'm being dead serious. I'm going to get through this. This young lady has had a stroke. Not many of us really know what that means. This young lady had the bag here. I don't know what is going on with what she could and couldn't carry. The entire time, big smile on her face. You got to take a picture with me, Steve. I told her it was $5. She insisted she wasn't going to pay. She didn't. But that positive, friendly attitude, you could say, well, that's her, that's not me. Well, in the world that I live in, People don't have time to try to figure out where your inner soul is. You know, beneath all the negativity, beneath all the nastiness, beneath the negative smile and the Debbie Downer, she's a really nice person. Well, that works somewhere, but not here. Because no one's going to work that hard to figure out that you're a really nice person. Here's my advice. Be nice. You want to make a good first impression? Sounds corny, right? Be friendly and nice. Fake it at first. Next, what makes it really bad? Because you could figure out how to make a great first impression by figuring out what you don't like. That's how to do this. Because ask yourself what you don't like, and then you can figure out how to go the other way. What else do we have? Nick, anyone else? All the way in the back? Anyone else? Just yell it out.
Cell phone.
So, what did you just say?
Cell phone ring.
Okay, let's do the technology thing real quick. Negative first impressions are made by the following. Take this down. Technology. Distracting technology. My wife and I were out to dinner the other night, which is a rarity with 4 kids. So we're out to dinner the other night, and we noticed another couple sitting there talking. And, well, they weren't really talking because both of them had their iPhones out. And I swear they might have been texting each other over dinner. How romantic. So, what do you got, Nick?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, great. This is a jersey for 5. You got 5. You ready? So here's the thing. You ready? Here's what I want to make clear on. Technology is great, but you want to make a great first impression? Limit the technology. Focus on FaceTime. Focus on FaceTime. Okay? Anyone else? What makes a negative first impression? Yell it out. Physical appearance. I'm big on this. Everyone take this down. And I want to be clear on this. I'm a big believer that physical appearance matters, but I don't want you to think you need to be a fashion model to make a great first impression. Here's what I'm a believer of when it comes to physical appearance. A, everything in moderation. Take this down. Jewelry, moderation. Cologne, moderation. Hair, moderation. Big hair, Jersey, big hair. Moderation. I've seen women come in for job interviews, very short skirts. Now, I'm for that. I am for, no. I'm joking. Moderation. Everything in moderation. Here's the key when it comes to great first impression. Nothing about your appearance should detract or distract from you. So therefore, everything in moderation. Anything else makes a negative first impression. What is it? Okay, real quick on the handshake. I got 3 fish handshakes when I came in today. I got the fish. Firm, but don't break my hand. A doctor I met the other day had to break my hand. I'm like, okay, you're not going to be my surgeon, okay? Firm, strong handshake. We got that. That's important, but a firm, strong handshake, eye contact. A couple of other things. Since Nick just gave me the cue, I am now going to move to my stuff, and I'm not going to screw around anymore. I'm giving you my stuff to get the last 4 minutes in. You ready? Try this one. Confidence. Confidence, confidence, confidence. You want to make a great first impression after the storm? Be confident. Here's the problem with that. How do you want me to be confident, Steve, when I don't know where the money's coming from, my business is in trouble, and I don't have all the answers? Yep, you're right. Confidence in the fact that even if you don't have all the answers, you have faith in yourself. You believe, even if you don't have all the answers, you're going to figure it out at some point. Because here's the deal. If you don't exude confidence in yourself, how can you expect TD Bank or anyone else to invest in you? So find out what it is you believe in yourself, and that's what you have to exude before or after the storm. Confidence. What gives you confidence about yourself? And by the way, you can't be fumbling around that. Real quick, take another tip. You ready for this one? Communicate in clear, unambiguous, concise language. I'll give you an example. Does anyone by applause, has anyone ever heard our Governor Christie speak by applause? Anyone? Governor Christie makes a pretty strong first impression. Does anyone remember when he said this during the first storm? Get the hell off the beach. Get the hell off the beach. That's what I'm talking about. That's it. Get the hell off the beach. Were you clear on what he was saying? Any confusion? That's the way I want you to talk. Now, I don't want you to walk up to someone and say, get the hell off the beach, because that line's already taken. But here's the beauty of that. I interviewed someone the other day for a job over the phone, and I asked, why are you the one for this job? 15 minutes later, he was rambling on. I had no idea what he was talking about. He was so far into the weeds and the details, no idea. So here's the point. He got on that call without, if I were coaching him, I would have said, Bob, get on the call, have 3 bullet points, 3 specific bullet points that you want to get across, and that's what you should focus on. He didn't do it, so what did he do? He rambled. Get on the call with 3 bullet points. I'm going to give folks one more chance. Tell me one really bad first impression. What do you got here? What is it?
Poor listening skills.
Yeah, poor listening skills, which is what we were talking about in terms of eye contact and other things before. So I'm going to try this one. Yes? Great one. Take this down, folks. A negative first impression is made when you don't follow up. So Nick said this to me in the call the other day, Nick Maselli from TD Bank. Nick said, once you make a great first impression, he had this great line, then what? Nick remembers you said, then what? Here's the deal. We interviewed someone the other day that we thought did a good job in an interview. We have a job opening. By the end of the day, we got an email from that person that said, Steve, great talking to you on the phone. I'm really looking forward to getting together with you. P.S. There's one thing I didn't get a chance to talk to you about, and it was just 2 lines. And I thought, oh my God, that email makes all the difference. Follow up and follow through. Follow up and follow through. Making a great first impression isn't only what you do and you say with your handshake and your eye contact and your body language, and you don't have bad cologne and your hair's not too big. That's all great. What you do is as important as what you say, in some ways more important. You have a great interview with someone and you don't follow up. You said you were going to send them something by the end of the week and you don't do it. You are gone. Who cared that you made a good first impression? You're done. So in that spirit, the other thing about making a good first impression is you have to end on time. So I'm going to do this. Last point I want to make with you. When you are trying to make a great first impression, there's no substitute for this. You can't fake it. You can't teach it. You can't coach it. You can't manufacture it. But here's what I believe in my heart. You want to make a great first impression? Care about the other person. Genuinely care about the other person. Here's what I mean by that. People who talk about themselves all the time make a bad first impression. You ever call a friend to tell them some exciting news? I had a friend who called another friend to say she was pregnant. 2 minutes into the conversation, the friend she was telling her about 2 other pregnancies that she had had. You want to make a good first impression? Show genuine interest in other people. Take this down. It's about them, not you. Sounds like such a cliche, right? It's about them, not you. So here's my advice. Care about other people. Show interest in other people. The more you do that, the more you will make a great impression. Because here's the one thing I've learned. Nelson Mandela said this one time. Great. Talk about making a great first impression and have your actions speaking a lot louder than your words. 27 years in jail for what you believe. How about this one? Mandela said this. People may sometimes forget what you say and what you do. People may sometimes forget what you say and what they do, but they will never forget how you make them feel about themselves. They will never forget how you make them feel about themselves. My advice, you want to make a good impression? Make somebody else feel good about themselves. They will never forget you. God bless you. Thank you very much.